Welcome everyone to the live. We are talking about offers and crafting offers today. And so, I got a lot of people talking about, well, how do you craft an offer? What's the best way to go about it? How do you do that? And so, since I get a lot of questions about that, I figured that I would hop on and talk about it. So, whenever I'm actually crafting offers, I think it's really important to think about what is going to be not only the market value of that property, but also what's the listing price? Like, what can you actually list the property for? And so, for me, those are actually two different things because I try to make sure that whenever I'm making an offer, I are creating an offer that I'm able to get that at a price that's going to allow me to have enough spread. That way, whenever I do list the property, I can actually list the property a little under market value. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One of the main reasons that I do that is because I like to try to create um, sort of interest in that property. So if all of the properties in the area that are selling for maybe $100,000, I like to go in and try to list my property for about 90. That way there's a lot of interest in the property. And oftentimes that creates some type of bidding war. So people will get into the property listing. They'll see that it's a bit cheaper. It's a bit of a discount compared to the other listings. And so what they'll do is they'll come in right at the full asking price. And then if I have multiple offers that are full asking price, and I'll just say, hey, listen, I have an offer at this price as well. Is this your highest and best? And that'll typically create some type of bidding war. And that often bids the property up higher than maybe just the market price of the property. So that's one of the things that I do whenever I'm crafting my offers is I think about what is the market value and then what is a really attractive listing price that I can actually list the property at. The next thing that I do is whenever I'm thinking about making an offer, I actually do several different offers. So I will have those three different offers prepared before I even talk to the seller. So what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I know if I can list the property at, let's say, $100,000, I know that I can get probably some type of lending on that property. If I do need to close on it, I can get a lender to lend up to 50% of the value of that property. So that would be in this scenario, let's say the market value is 100 and that means that I could get lending on it up to 50,000. So that will first drive my first offer. So I'm going to offer somewhere between 40 to 50% of market value. That way I know that if they agree to that, I can use a lender's money to close on that property really quickly. And now I control it. The reason why I want to control it and not assign something like that is because typically if you can get a property at 40 to 50% of market value, lock that up, then now you have a pretty large margin in a lot of cases. And so I don't like to play around with assigning or even double closing that type of deal. I like to try to close on it and control it as much as I possibly can. So I'll close on that property if it's 40 to 50% using a lender's money. So that's my first offer. 40 to 50% I can close super quickly because I know a lender will lend up to 50% all day. So that's offer one. If they say, well, no, I have, I need more than that. I'll say, okay, well, it sounds like price is a little bit more important to you than time. Is that right? And I just want to verify with them. I just want to make sure that they are saying that they would prefer a slower close if they got more money. So once they verify that, then I say, okay, great. So I can offer you X if you're willing to close and allow me a 120-day due diligence period. So in this case, I said $100,000 was going to be our market value. I first offered 40 to 50% of that. If they turn that down, they want more money, then I'll say I can do 55 to 60,000 if I can get a 120-day option period. It's going to take me a little bit longer to take a look at the property, maybe shop it to some retail partners, but I can do that range if I have up to 120 days, right? So that's offer two. If they say no to that and they want more money, then I'm going to go a little bit bigger in my timeline. So I'll say, okay, Well, then I can do 180 days, but then I'll need to be somewhere, around maybe 60 to 65,000, right? So you're really looking at it in increments. Offer one is like 40 to 50%. Offer two is like 50 to maybe 58%. Offer three is maybe 59%, all the way up to 65, maybe 70%. Now, the reason why I need those 120-day option period and 180-day option period or close period in the second two offers is because I'm actually going to be shopping it. Those are going to be my wholesale deals. So I'm going to need time to actually put it in front of different buyers, to maybe talk to different agents. So I'm going to need that time to be able to shop it around and do that. So I have three offers prepared. I know that whatever they need, if they need a super fast closing, then I can accommodate that if they can go with the lower price, right? So that gives me an opportunity to do that and just kind of structure my offers that way. So that's how I put together offers. I also take a look at, what is the price that I want to, what's the net profit that I want to make on these deals. So if the net profit is, somewhere around 10 to 15,000, then I'll bake that in to the offer price. So that means that I'll take a look at what can I list the property for? I subtract whatever it is that I want to make, and now I have my maximum allowable offer. So like, let's say it's 100,000 is what I'm going to list it for, and I want to make 15,000 on that property, then I know that the most that I can offer is 85,000. That's my maximum allowable offer, and then I work everything else backwards from there. So it's just sort of like a subtraction type of function there. So what questions do you have? Looking to see if you guys have any types of questions. I'm just going to open this up and see what kind of questions you have. I'm using Restream for the first time, so I can stream on multiple platforms. And so bear with me while I am kind of figuring this out. But yeah, what questions do you have about offers? I'm happy to answer that and see if I can find where the questions are on here. So, but all things offers, acquisitions, negotiation, if you have any questions about that, how I do something, happy to answer questions. Also, if you're a little bit shy, you don't want to ask them in person, feel free to pop them in DMs. I'm always happy to answer in DMs as well. So what questions do you guys have for me about that? I won't be able to stay on super long because in just about 45 minutes or so, I'm going to be on the amazing Al Nicoletti's podcast. We're going to be filming a live episode of that. And so super excited about that, but I'll need some time to get things situated and get everything together for that. So I'm actually going to check my Facebook and see if there's any questions that you have so far. Any? Nope. Okay, someone says, I come across large acreage leads often and need to stop letting them sit in my Podio. Yeah, those large acreage deals, those can be a little bit more challenging to comp. Infill lots, you can take a look at. Typically, there are other infill lots in that area that has some type of activity, so you can actually get some comps and see what the market is actually demanding in that area and what they're actually providing. Also, you can look at new constructions as well and kind of figure out what the value of a lot would be to a builder if you're dealing with infill lots. But larger acreage can be a little bit more complicated just by virtue of the size of the property. There are some areas that don't have lots of large acreage deals to actually comp. So what I would suggest doing is opening up your search parameters a little bit more. So large acreage can go, a mile, maybe even 2 miles out from the center of that subject property. I know with infill lots, I try to keep it as tight as possible. So I want to see in that subdivision, what are lots going for? But that's not something that we actually have the luxury of when dealing with large acreage properties. And so I'll go out a mile, 2 miles to see if I can find similar parcels in terms of size when I'm doing comps for that. The other thing is, sometimes the demand is not as high just because someone may not have, you know, several $100,000 to buy a large acreage parcel. So um, that will also drive a slightly lower demand. But also what I'll also do is with an infill lot, I want to see like what properties are going for, like what have they sold for in the last 90 days. Like anything older than 3 months in this market for an infill lot can sometimes be very, very different information. So prices can go way up or way down in the course of 3 months for infill lots. But sometimes I'll go back 1 year, 2 years, sometimes even 5 years in some areas for these larger acreage parcels, because it's really difficult to comp them just because we don't have as many of them like we would for infill lots. So yeah, I'm curious as to why is it what I kind of talked about here, that it's difficult to comp those properties? Is that why you let those large acreage leads sit in your pipeline? Let me know. I'm curious because we can help with that. I'm happy to partner with you on that. Yeah. Yeah. So it is a little bit more difficult to comp larger acreage for sure. So if you have some large acreage leads that you would like to potentially partner up with, I'm happy to take a look at it and see if it's something that my company would be interested in. Also, there are plenty of other people out there in Facebook groups that you just join some investor groups and say, hey, I've got some large acreage leads. I don't have the bandwidth to actually comp them out and price them out, but if anyone wants to partner with me, I'm happy to JV and get those leads to you. You could probably try to even sell those leads. So there's lots of different things that you can do with those leads, but I want to encourage you to get them out of your Podio and get them making some cash for you. So really good stuff. Alrighty, anyone else? Does anyone else have any questions about that? One thing I'll say about large acreage comps as well is if you're comping on, like for infill lots, nothing wrong with going to something like Zillow or Redfin. Maybe if you have like realtor access to the MLS to be able to comp those types of properties, it's a lot easier to comp those properties using those types of platforms. With large acreage, however, I really like to use one of the land.coms. So I like to use land.com. Will use my MLS access to be able to kind of look and see, but land.com is probably my go-to, and that's what I train my team on, is when I'm comping larger acreage, take a look at the comps on land.com. Thing about land.com is that they're not required to update the sales price when a property does sell. And so sometimes the sales price may not be, the list price may not have been updated to show what they actually sold the property for, but it gives you a good amount of information to kind of see what are people listing those properties for in that area. Also, you can see in land.com the actual agent who was on that particular deal. So you can always call that agent and get a little bit more information about the area, about maybe that particular property that you saw their listing. So that's also a good source of information as well. So hope that helps. Anything else? Any other questions about making offers? I love acquisitions. I love negotiation. I love creating offers. One of the other, I wouldn't say it's a tip, but it's sort of the way that I approach business, is that I always aim to make it a win-win for everyone involved. So in negotiation, I like for everyone to walk away feeling like they got what they wanted. And if they didn't get exactly what they want, they at least got what they needed. I think that's really important for everyone to walk away feeling like, okay, I won something, I didn't lose something. So in negotiations, when I'm presenting offers, when I'm coming up with creative deals, I don't ever want it to feel like I'm going to take something from you. I always want it to feel like we're going back and forth. I'm helping you to get whatever it is that you need. So I like to focus not only on just the number, but also what's the next stage? What are they going to do with that number? There are a lot of, for example, large acreage landowners that when you're talking about really big sums of money, if they get that all as a lump sum, they're going to pay a lot of that back in taxes. And so sometimes we can create some type of creative offer where instead of getting it all in one large lump sum, they can actually do like a 1031 exchange where they take some of that money and then put that into another investment property if they're looking for investment property. So we wouldn't know that unless we ask, what's your next step? What is the next plan? All right. Jake asks, if you're starting off, what's the best for a beginner to create some momentum in wholesaling land? Yeah, so I think that if you're first starting off as a beginner, finding the deal is probably the most important thing. And there's lots of different ways that you can do that depending on your budget. Um, you can actually find properties for free, right? So whenever you are looking at properties, you're looking at subdivisions, right? So if you're driving through a subdivision, just start looking for those empty lots. When you start seeing empty lots in the subdivision, take note of the address and then go to Zillow and look at the whole subdivision and start looking to see what are lots selling for in that area. That will kind of give you an idea in terms of what you can start offering people. But coming back to getting deals, there's lots of different ways that you can get deals. You can co-wholesale with someone, meaning that you can go inside of a Facebook group, you can see a wholesaler's post about a lot that they're trying to sell, and then you can try to go and find a buyer. I know a lot of people will start that way. So if they're not finding the deal, they're finding the buyer, right? The other thing that you can do is if you have a little bit of budget, I strongly suggest, and this is like, I will say this forever. One of the very best things that you can do as a brand new beginner looking for deals, there is nothing that you are going to get a better value from than going with some type of marketing campaign that's like cold calling. So I use Lead Mining Pros. Shout out to Nicholas Nick at Lead Mining Pros. I recommend everyone that starts, scrape up a little bit of cash, and then go to Lead Mining Pros. We actually have a code. If you use Only Land Fans code, you'll get 10% bonus with Nicholas in his company. But it's amazing because part of his package includes the cost of pulling the list, scrubbing the list, skip tracing the list. And so we will typically get off of like a $1,400 spend for a campaign. He'll send 3,000 text message or 1,500 text messages and 3,000 cold calls. Typically that yields about anywhere from 10 to 30 leads. And then that usually translates into about 1 to 2 contracts. So for someone that's just starting off, that's where I would say, if you can pull together $1,400 and start having an American cold call list for you, that would be absolutely tremendous. And that's the fastest way to start getting leads and start being able to negotiate. So I hope that helps, Jake. If you have any follow-up questions, please let me know. Yeah, finally joining live. Welcome to the party. All right, how do you look on the MLS? Do you use PropStream? So I actually don't use PropStream. I know that a lot of people do. It is a way for you to get some MLS access if you don't have MLS access. I am actually a licensed agent in the state of Texas, so I have MLS access. I'm able to use my access to be able to pull the MLS data and see what is selling and what are the active listings. If you are in a non-disclosure state like Texas, for example, then the only way really to get what properties have sold for is if you have some type of MLS access. I'm not super familiar with PropStream just because I haven't had to use it before. I know some people have, I think it may have some type of limited MLS access where you can see what has actually sold in some non-disclosure states. But if you are in a disclosure state, for example, Florida is a very popular land flipping location, and Florida is very popular in land flipping, and that is a disclosure state. So you can go to Zillow, you can go to Redfin, something like that, and you can see what properties have actually sold for. They'll have the listing information and the sales price. Jake asks, "How have you looked into Deal Machine?" I've heard about it. I'm kind of familiar with what they do, but I haven't actually done anything with Deal Machine. I know that it's supposed to maybe give some access, some kind of MLS access, or maybe pull some tax information as well. But I'm not super familiar with Deal Machine. What I actually use to comp properties is, like I said, my MLS access. But for those people who don't have MLS access and you're working in a non-disclosure state, a really good rule of thumb is if you're looking at Zillow or Redfin or something like that, you can look at the list price, and then they'll also show when properties have gone pending. So when a property goes pending, that means that there's actually a contract that's been signed and they're just waiting to close that property. So I look at the price that the property went pending at. So like, let's say it's $100,000. I think that a really good rule of thumb is if you take about 10 to 15% of that off of that list price when it went pending. So 100,000, you take 10% off, it's about 90,000. 15 would be 85,000. So a rule of thumb would be you can kind of safely say conservatively that that property sold for about 90 to 85,000. Now, that's not a hard and fast rule, but it is a rule of thumb for you to be able to kind of gauge what a property may have sold for, especially if there's multiple properties that are listed in that area around the same price. So you can pretty much say that that's a safer bet when you have anywhere between 3 to 5 or more properties that are listed at a similar price. I like to do that 10 to 15% off rule to be able to figure out kind of what a property may have sold for in a non-disclosure state. So hope that helps. Let's see, is there any other question here? Any other questions that you guys have about acquisitions, offers, comping property? Comping is a whole thing. Definitely could go into a 2-hour masterclass about comping properties, but trying to give you guys some value. And also, I don't want to take a ton of your time, but what questions do you guys have about creating offers based on the numbers that you found, or maybe how to comp something, or acquisitions? Can you show how to comp big acres? Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that I actually have to hop off in just a bit because I'm going to be on the Al Nicoletti show. We are doing that live, and I'll also be live streaming that in about 30 minutes or so. So let's see, how to comp big acres. So one of the things that I'll say about, and I'll do that in another live for sure. I got you covered. I'll do that. But what I'll say is when you're comping larger acreage, it's really important I like to look at two sets of numbers. I like to look at what are other similar properties in that size range, in that general area are selling for. So that's one of them. So let's say that your property is 100 acres, right? That's what you're trying to comp. So I'll try to look at as many properties that are like 80 to maybe 120 acres, right? Just to kind of get an idea of what that property is as it sits. There's a general rule of thumb that the smaller the property, the higher price per acre, right? So if it's like 100 acres, then I know that I could probably force a value add by subdividing that property. So I'm going to also look to see what are properties selling for in the potential subdivision size that I want to make. So if I'm thinking about subdividing those properties into 10-acre parcels, then I also want to see what the 10-acre parcel comps are. So I'm going to start looking in that area for 10-acre parcels and see what that price is. So what you'll probably find is that a 100-acre parcel, you find what the general list price, general sales price is for that property, and then you divide it by the 100 acres, right? And that will give you the price per acre. You'll typically find that price per acre number go up the smaller the property is. So I'll do the same thing for 10-acre parcels as well. So let's say that a property is selling for, let's say $100,000 for a 10-acre parcel. So $100,000 divided by 10 is $10,000 an acre. If I run my comps on the larger parcels that are 100 acres, and I see that maybe my price per acre is $2,000, then I know that if I subdivide that 100-acre parcel, if I sell it as is, then I'll probably get around $2,000 an acre. But if I subdivide it into 10-acre parcels, then I'll have 10 10-acre tracts, and then price per acre jumps up to $10,000 an acre. And so that will force a value add. So I run comps on those two size properties. That way I know if that would be a good subdivision opportunity for me. So I hope that helps. In lieu of giving you a full masterclass on that, but I'll definitely do a live where we do where we price some comps out on large properties. All right, are you a blind offer or neutral letter guy? Good question. I actually do both. So I am not a huge fan of sending out a ton of blind offers, just because there's a lot of upfront work that goes into that and trying to comp out the property, especially if it's an area that I'm not super familiar with. But if it's an area that I've done a lot of deals in, meaning I can tell you that, in this particular subdivision, this particular size lot is going to get me X amount of money, and I know that because I've done multiple deals there, then I will hit that subdivision with blind offers multiple times, meaning I'll put them on a cadence, like every couple of months, I'll send out a blind offer campaign to that specific subdivision. So with blind offers, I like to keep those campaigns extremely small and targeted. So think of it like more of like a sniper approach. Because I know that area really well, I know what's a good price for that area, I feel confident in putting together blind offer campaigns for that. Everything else is neutral offers. I like sending out the mail that I'm using right now for large campaigns. I do neutral offers because I want to get those people on the phone. I want to get those people into my pipeline. If I get those people in my pipeline, then I can nurture, I can get them to know, like, and trust us. I can educate them about the value of their property, and I can put them on, email drips that last forever, right? So they're in my pipeline. But if I send someone a blind offer that I'm not too sure about, they don't know who I am, I don't really know the value of that area too well because I haven't really done any deals there, and my offer is too low, they're just going to take that blind offer and throw it in the trash, and they're going to think I'm just trying to lowball them. And I have no conversation to be able to talk with them, right? So I like to actually get people in the pipeline, and I like to nurture. You've heard a lot of times that the money is in the follow-up. Well, there's no follow-up if they just take that blind offer and throw it in the trash. So I like to get them to get into our pipeline so we can have conversations. All righty. Yeah, you're welcome for that. Do you use land contracts when signing with an owner or an option contract? So we use a one-page purchase agreement with most of our deals, unless it's a large land deal. Then we're going to have like some really sophisticated contracts. But typically, I just use a one-page purchase agreement that I had my attorney take a look at and advise me on and say, okay, this looks like it's clear to do what you want to do in the state that you're working in. And so that's what we actually use. In that purchase agreement, it does give us an option to leave that contract if there's something that we find that that makes the deal not work for us anymore. And so that's written into the purchase agreement. So hope that helps, Jake. Alrighty, anything else? Anyone else have any other questions? This has been super fun. Some really great questions. Hope that I was able to shed a little light on offers and acquisitions and that type of thing. But yeah, I'm definitely going to take the note that I'll probably make a YouTube video so you can go back and watch it of how we comp larger acreage. So we'll definitely do that. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, I want to thank you for joining me and kind of chatting with me today. This has been super fun. So be on the lookout for some other lives that we're going to do. I'm going to attempt to do a live every week about some type of topic that we're doing. And also 9 p.m. Eastern tonight, I will be on the Al Nicoletti Show. I'll be streaming on all of my platforms as well. So be on the lookout for that. Would love to have you watch live and in real time. Super excited. This will be my first interview of 2024. Usually I'm the interviewer and not the interviewee. So it's going to be fun to be on the other side of the table. And Al is incredible. So hope that you join and get some more value that way. So anyway, hope this has helped you. Take care. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Oh, the other live is at 9 p.m. Eastern. So that's 7 Central. So in about 25 minutes. All right, Jake, we'll catch you then. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.